So what I'm attempting to do today is pour a silicone mold around my wax original. The original is the family crest for Armstrong, Clan Armstrong. My brother-in-law and his brother are Armstrongs. And this is going to become a bronze wall hanging, I'm thinking, or maybe a gate display. So I've been dealing with a lady named Karen Begg at Studiowest in Cochrane, Alberta. And she has sent me a couple of different kinds of double component silicone that's pourable and sets up. I did a small crest like this, and I'll show a picture of it, with a different kind of two-component silicone that sets up. It's only got about a 5-minute pot time, which means you get organized and get it together because it sets up pretty quick. I made sure that the chemicals were quite cool, so I had a little longer time to spend with it. I didn't degas that because I hadn't created this ugly square box yet. My first couple attempts at the square box had a glass top on them, which failed spectacularly under vacuum. I wish I had video of that. So today we're going to try using this stuff. It's a two-component again, liquid rubber. It's a 2-to-1 mix, and it has a pot life of 16 or 20 minutes depending on which paperwork you want to read. So I'm going to mix up the correct amounts. Now it says to do it by weight, but I've measured out how much I needed, and both of these cans, the part A and part B, both weigh, they must have very close to the same density, so I'm going to use volume instead of weight. I don't think my wife would be that enthused if I was weighing chemicals on our food scale. So once that's mixed up in here, put this into my vacuum pot and degas it. Probably doesn't need anything more than that. This is the lid from a cooking pot. Came from our local dollar store. The vacuum pump was salvaged out of an ambulance that we decommissioned, and the transformer somewhere similar. Then I'm going to pour it into the mold, which has been coated with a release agent. This kind of silicone is supposed to have a release agent, as well as when I pour multiple waxes into it, so that instead of just ending up with one of these, I can create, well, as many as needed. The waxes then will go down to Susan at Studiowest, and they will cast them into bronze. And sorry, Karen, I know you said to use metal or silicone stir sticks, but wood is what I've got, so that's what I'm going to use for stirring. Unfortunately, the humidity is probably fairly high, but being in Alberta, that's not usually a problem. It rained this morning. And I will start mixing. Okay, so I've got things measured out. Component B had to be mixed really, really well, and shaking it didn't work. I actually had to stir it with a stick a bunch. And part A, the can was really difficult to get open. I actually was almost convinced that it had gelled somehow inside the can before I managed to get it open. But it did open. So we're ready to put the two together, and we'll write down the time and stir the daylights out of it. So it is 10:18, and we are allowed, this is 74:20, so that's this one. Pot time is 20 minutes according to this chart. So it better all be poured in 20 minutes. So we're 7:18, we got 20 minutes. My stir stick and my two components. Okay, here we go. I sprayed the release agent on my pattern last night. You're supposed to give it some time to dry. Component A is quite thick. Hopefully my head isn't stuck in the road of the camera. And this stuff is really expensive, so you don't want to waste it. Fancy little homemade stir stick made out of zip ties and a dowel rod. That puts a little too much air in it. So the hockey pucks in the bottom serve no purpose. I just left them in there from a different project. Set that in there. So I stirred it for probably 3 minutes, using both wooden sticks to scrape the sides and also the cordless drill for stirring. Okay, so hold that together. See if I can do this without getting in front of the camera. I actually don't think that there are a whole lot of bubbles going to come out of here anyway. It didn't seem to be a problem that I entrained any. A little bit coming up. So we're holding about 10 inches of mercury on it. There's 15. And the bubbles are popping. I don't know if the camera shows that or not. Okay, so that's had a few minutes. I'll let the pressure off. I bumped it up to 15 inches of mercury and held it there for probably 5 minutes. Okay, this piece of tape covers my inlet. I discovered one time the air, when you let the pressure off, it just blows straight onto the surface of whatever you're doing and makes a mess of it. So that's just an air deflector. All right, now we'll move this over. And we're ready to pour. Okay, well, wish me luck. I'm trying not to create any bubble pockets. So I'm filling the deepest areas first, if I can. Karen said this is a long, thin stream is the best way to prevent bubbles. She actually said that I didn't need to degas it. Well, there we go. There's a little crack in right there. Okay, that may have caught a bubble. I don't know. Well, yep, I think that one's okay. I will try and edit some of this out because I imagine it's a lot like watching paint dry. So if I did my measuring correctly, this should come within 1/4 of an inch of the top of my metal band, which is my form. And actually I did that by filling it with sand, and then took the sand out and measured it. Looks like he did not bad, maybe left 3/8 of an inch there. I've got to say, gloves are really important because this stuff is messy. Done with that. So change our vacuum line. It would be really nice to have a big chunk of acrylic so I can see what's going on inside, but I don't. So that's as exciting as it gets. I'm going to turn the camera off until we uncover it. I'm going to put a vacuum on it. So it's now, the pot time is We're 5 minutes shy of its pot life, which is good. The bubbles will still have time to come out if there are any trapped between the letters. So one of the problems I created myself, I moved this from the basement where I assembled the box and the mold and everything. And I obviously jarred my clay seal. The clay seal, as it turns out, is really, really important. This is the piece that I tore off. I was really quite amazed at how strong this stuff is. So, we'll see if I can actually, if the release agent works. So it's been about 23 hours. Oh, that came off nice and easy. That, I don't know. The plywood has bowed for some reason. Oh, I really like sticking to that plywood down there. My wax original is double sticky taped down. Otherwise it would float. That would be a bad thing. Sort of vacuum seals. I discovered that with the small crest as well. Once you break the air seal, things come apart more easily. Right, well, I can see here, this was quite a thin piece of the wall. I can see I actually managed to break it out. Now, I may take a knife and carve this a little bit wider. But that looks remarkably true. Absolutely no bubbles, so the vacuum apparently worked. Give it a few days to finish curing, and then we're going to fill it with hot wax a few times and see if we can recreate this a number of times. So my silicone has spent the last 5 or 10 minutes sitting in boiling water, and the point of the air is to just dry it off, but you need to get all of the water out of all of the corners and cracks. Otherwise you will have flaws in your pour. So I'm trying to fill the letters from a side so that they have a chance to fill rather than the wax just pouring over the top and creating gaps or bubbles in the bottom, which doesn't always work. If you get it a little too full, that's okay. No, try not to, because it does shrink down a little tiny bit. There, I'll call that good. Now you see that it has bubbles on it. I'll show you how to fix that with the torch after I vacuum it, just in case we end up with more bubbles. I've put the flat platform on the bottom because it's easier to pick everything up off of a flat surface rather than out of a box. It's going to get noisy. wasn't able to get a very good seal. I must have some dust on my gasket. Okay. Now, keeping in mind that wax is flammable, that's all it takes to pop the bubbles. Now we're going to leave the box over top of it so that it cools evenly and slowly. Helps to prevent warping. So after I poured, this spent about 5 hours underneath in the vacuum container. Not under vacuum, just sitting in there in its own little compartment so that it could cool slowly and evenly. And you see what a really nice surface finish it came out with. And now it's been sitting on the floor, but even still, if you look, I don't know if you can see down the back side of this. It's not perfectly flat, so it still does warp a little bit. And then, well, you've seen the removal before, so I won't make you suffer through that again.